We got a little moment here, so praise be to Allah. We always want to put these things on record, family. Allah is always leading on and victory is sure. So yeah, but yeah, we all had people that we honored, as I was stating earlier. But at the end of the day, even we outgrow. I mean, think about some of the friends we had. A lot of us had friends that we might have looked to for they guidance, so to speak, when we were young. One that we can really confide in, or whatever the case may be. But now that we all grown, we understand that we all got to keep it moving, so to speak. Don't mean that we was ungrateful, so to speak, but it's easy for the public to remember, you when you in your heights and forget you when you fall from glory, as some people say. And this is the Western machine. This is their way, the way the West work. They move like an assembly line. Like, all right, here go one, next one up. All right, who else up the bat? All right, get him out of the way. And so this is why we say, again, the public is unstable and ungrateful. They don't care nothing about your talent. I don't care how fast you can run. I don't care how high you think you can jump. I don't care how good you can dribble a ball between your legs and shoot a three-pointer, shoot from half court or whatever. When time come, and the sun begin to set, on all that glory or whatever the case may be, you always expendable. And this is the same mentality when it comes to dealing with our people, even when it comes to dealing with each other. Everything is all good when it's all good. But everything is all bad when it's all bad. But when you in divinity, everything is all good all the time. Like a lot of people say, God is good all the time. Well, the great God Allah should be at your essence and in your consciousness all the time. You the great God. You the one that's good. Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us my good morals are going to live. But he also said that his good morals would be singed as well. So, and that's not a bad thing. Because we live and we learn, family. That's what it boiled down to. Every experience in life, is based on the testing ground. It's the adept degree. And trust me, our Grand Secretary of the State said all the time, they come through doors in which you don't observe. Where you least expect, the special door, that's the one. And so it can be right there in front of you all the time. So we just have to be conscious, like I said, and know that it's only one supreme reality, which is the reality. The great God, the old wonderful one, as a lot of us call him, causes called, rootless root, and so forth and so on. But we just have to acknowledge our divinity. But that don't mean everybody gonna acknowledge your divinity. Because sometimes, your divinity can stir up the ethers. You being one that is carrying, a high vibration. Sometimes, family, that can cause a lot of conflict. When those who may feel that they are not able to be as disciplined as you are able to be, so to speak. Some people have conflict with that right there, and they will resent you for that. And this can go outside, dealing with people in general, and it also can deal with even in a residential standpoint, family. If you ain't weak, or if you ain't in the lower vibration, one will try to pull you into that vibration, at all costs. So you got to protect your energy. You got to stay on the level of God frequency. And it get crazy. Trust me. Your assistant Grand Sheik definitely know it get real crazy. But Allah is always leading on and victory is sure. And that's the grand degree of unfoldment. And then when any particular situation come, you already prepared for it. When you have been on the testing ground, many times, and you done dealt with the lesson, it's easy to be what it is that it is. I mean, at the end of the day, we ain't got nobody to impress anyway. You see, we just here to do the job and get the job done. So we ain't looking for no applauses and from the brethren, getting caught up in the show, losing reality, the sight of it, Remember now, the hero, the most renowned of human character. Everybody know the hero, don't they? What is he but the bobo of this weakness? See? So the very thought of one getting on a level thinking they heroic is a weakness. You putting the cape on. Well, we thought that was supposed to be something strong. Them capes look good, didn't it? Come on now. Y'all know them capes, especially if they had an insignia on it. It was sure enough something else. But yet the public is unstable and ungrateful. So that's where the instability coming from. By thinking that you can do right by the public, and the public gonna automatically do right by you, that will bring about some instability if you ain't careful. Soon as you figure out, no, I'm demonstrating this measure right here, not per se, to try to save one from a situation. I'm doing it because this is the purpose. It's going to be all good and well. Sometime in our mind, we think we're trying to help the situation or help, people. You see? And then you get sins in the process. It always have now. You reaching down there. They got a lot of depictions like that out there in social media. You pulling one to you, embracing them, and they got a dagger behind their back with their thumbs crossed. I mean, fingers crossed, not thumb, but they fingers crossed. But anyway, so like unstable deal with instability, ungrateful deal with, actually why one has no knowledge of their benefactor. Didn't I tell you, like, even the atheistic mindset comes from one that is ungrateful? So if the public is unstable, then we understand why the public is ungrateful. Instability is what led one to becoming ungrateful. Because if one was rooted, in the reality of what stability is, then they wouldn't be battling, these special measures dealing with being ungrateful. You see? And a lot of time we don't have gratitude until it's too late. Then we want to act like we want to show some gratitude. We want to act like we want to pay some homage all of a sudden. So that's a mess. But it says, why should the man, Moorish American national of wisdom, we just talked about the pinnacle of wisdom. We just came out of that. Why should one who is at the pinnacle of wisdom stoop down, go into the lowest of the low? No, 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 no. All right. I see you crazy. I see you. No, I ain't nobody coming over there. All right. Crash out then if that's what you would. You got to do that. You ain't going to put yourself in no danger for no fool. That's what we teach. You see, that's wisdom. Speaking out of the highest plane of spirit, like, don't do that, Mo. Don't you put yourself in that situation, Mo. It be telling you even in subtle form. We are not just like I'm talking, but in a still small voice. And you know it, and some of us are still try to demonstrate that. And so a lot of time, our love, and I said this a couple of times, your love can become your adversary if you ain't careful. Your love can be your worst enemy. Your love can betray you, before anyone outside of you can, because, of the way that you demonstrate, so to speak, when it comes to dealing with just say carelessly putting that demonstration out there, without dealing with what we call reciprocal help and mutual obligation. You see? So that's one of the reasons why the public is unstable and ungrateful, because the public ain't looking at you from a level of mutual obligation. The public is looking at you from the standpoint of what's in it for me. And if it ain't nothing else, then all right, later, I'm on the highway and the byway, I'm gone. That's the mindset of instability. And this is actually a part of that PTSS. It's called mental slavery, family. And there's a cure for mental slavery. There's a cure for mental illness that we call mental slavery. And it has to do with what we call know thyself. First, you got to diagnose yourself. You diagnose gnosis, know thyself. And then when you know yourself, you know your God. In fact, it's stated that the great God Allah even said, know me before you worship me. Who need a hero when they got a God present? I mean, the so-called hero or the illusion of it couldn't exist if it wasn't the will of the Most High. I don't care what somebody try to do. It's been many occasions that people done tried to save people's lives, and have all the means to do so, but it's just out of the realm of the will. And they can't put life in them individuals for nothing in the world. And there have been situations where an individual may come into a particular calamity that good and well ain't nobody able to survive that situation. And they come through it. That's the only great God can do that. A hero can want to be a hero, but in all actuality, it's the great God Allah who make these so-called self-proclaimed and self-professed heroes, and give them the opportunity to be there. Every time you see somebody that do something, they say, man, that one right there was a hero. Well, who gave him the opportunity to be able to demonstrate that? Who put him in position or her in position that they could basically be able to demonstrate their heroism? This is a powerful demonstration, family. So how soon do we forget? Vanity now and ego make you think you doing it. And it ain't going to move unless you say move. And this is what causes the calamities right here. This is what really stir up and conjure up the calamities. We almost welcome it and invoke it, by the way that we demonstrate. So this is a powerful measure, family. And I hope that we are able to elevate our consciousness, as we all strive to, all of us, one thing about it, come through various different trials and tests, but that in which don't take you off the count, we already know it ain't going to do nothing but strengthen you and make you the strength of the great God Allah made manifest. A love thought, is what it is, the real love thought, not that corner love that people fall in. In real love, people rise in love. They don't fall in love. They rise in love. Even when it comes to so-called loving your favorite celebrity, basketball, football player, all that type of stuff. Ones can even fall in that concept of love. Getting caught up in the manifest on any level. In fact, if you ain't careful, you be done molded, we can say shaped and brought an idol on the manifest. And you already know the great God Allah don't play that right there. So we've been given the opportunity to exercise our consciousness and do that which is in line with the will of the great God. And if we execute our work faithfully, everything that we set out will unfold. But I don't care what it is that you call yourself trying to demonstrate and do. If it's not in accord with the great God Allah, it won't be. You see? So when you're dealing with stability, you already know what the outcome is. You ain't got to wonder what the outcome is and is it gonna go this way? Is it gonna go that way? Will I be successful? Will I fail? You ain't got to worry about none of that right there. You already know when you put it out there in the ether, you vibrate the ethers, you already winning. You destined to win. You see? So yeah, in most cases, you seen those who become renowned as heroes, and they fall just like any other man. Yeah, children of the Most High. Yeah, God, children. That's the better title, God, right? Other than hero. I like God, man. So that's a powerful demonstration, family. Character building. So are you building a character of an action figure? Is that the human character that now are you trying to build the temple of perfected man? That's the question. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares, as they say. I mean, well, the believers and the knowers, they have affection and care, but as far as dealing with the public, I'm telling you, they do not care. So this is why you have to be firm. You got to be upright, independent, and fearless. You got to be rooted, within your consciousness. Like I say, that don't mean the trials and the temptations ain't gonna come manifold, but it means that, at every level there's a greater devil, but we have the resolution and we have the tools to be able to overcome that adversary, overcome that opposition. Yeah, that's what it boiled down to, family. It don't get no plainer than that. So we got work to do. We've been called to demonstrate a grand work, but we got to get out of the mindset of worrying about, how somebody else gonna feel about the work. That's one of the mistakes that we make. We worry about whether somebody admire the work or they don't know. We here to work, and that's the purpose. It don't make no difference what nobody think. You got to be you. You got to do what it is that you was born to do. Do your job. And later for the rest. Because if not, then you're going to be caught up with expectations. And this is what's going to bring all your sorrow and your misery and your pain if you ain't careful. So we trying to save our people. That is special trip. You see? Don't mean that you got to act as if you are emotionless and you are not human. We just saying don't get caught all up in it. Time to rise, family. It's time to rise with like minds. So you heard him say in the Piscean records, an unstable mind is unstable in all its ways. What did we say, man? Unstable man is unstable in all it. And so we want to establish a foundation of stability, and come up with affirmations, and even mantras, in relation to dealing with this special drawing. It's a lot that can be said in this special area. Like I said, we've been taught to love, the hero for everything that the hero do. We even had ghetto heroes. They had a song out here. The artist Master P back in the day we used to listen to. He say, my ghetto heroes, I watch them live fast and watch them die slow. That's a powerful statement. I watch them live fast and watch them die slow. Ain't that something? And that's how most of our people do. They live fast while they die a slow death. Many of our people go through that special process. And before you know it, it's up, it's over with. The pinnacle of wisdom told you that. Like that arrow shot through the heart. You know what I mean? You see how fleeting you lose it before you get it. You know, so we got to be careful, family. You know, we got to learn how to let nature take its course and stop trying to take the will of the old wonderful one and link your will up with the deific will. And then it won't seem as if you are toiling so hard because you already know what creative fate is. You know what destiny is, and so forth and so on. You see? We just got to move. We got to get out the way of our own selves. A lot of us end up getting in the way of our own selves, family. We get in the way of our own selves. We get in the way of our own progress. We get in the way of our own ability to unfold. And then we begin to blame others outside of the self as to why it is we have not been able to reach the pinnacle. It's because we got to get out the way. And like they say, let go and let God. Let go that ego. Let go that love, that lower thought. Let go, the lower self. And let the God self within you be your guide. Be your protector. That's you. Be conscious of your divinity. Be conscious of everything it is that you have come through to get where you are today. We got to be conscious, family. And then we will be able to deal with situations at a more elevated level of consciousness. If you have a situation where it's causing you, to where you want to act out, and demonstrate harmful degrees of unfoldment, we can go on and on. If you're allowing that lower self to really stir up your ethers, and fall by climbing as a result of being a reactionary, I mean, go ahead if that's what you want to do. I can tell you it ain't going to end well. So we got to get out of the mindset, and I'm doing this all the time myself. Like I tell our family, we got to make an assessment, within the self when it comes to dealing with mastery. And once we're able to master the self, then somebody else will see us as an example. You see? I see our brother C-Mac on there said he had the whole world in his hand and lost it. Many of us have. What profits a man or woman if they gain the world but lose their soul in the process? Did you really gain anything? Because the soul has to do with action, thinking, willing, reason, understanding, remembrance. Man, we got a lot of work to do, but it has to do with self-mastery. Not self-mystery, self-mastery. And these lessons I don't claim to be a master of. I'm striving to master them too. And it's always good to have that mindset that we always students. And we can really obtain something and unfold through degrees. Man unfolds as God unfolds. Even in the Grand Quran, the great God Allah says he raises man by degrees. So at every level that you ascend, and you transcend the manifest, so to speak, you are actually completing degrees within this great school or university that we call life. That's a powerful demonstration, family. So when you get to a certain level, calamities no longer haunt you. It ain't hard, it's free. Everything we demonstrate is free, and it's going to free us too. You see? All we got to do is put in the work and the effort. And everything else going to unfold, family. Trust me when I tell you that. Everything else going to transpire just like it's supposed to. So we got to learn to seek the kingdom of our own divinity. Seek the consciousness of self. That's what it boiled down to. We don't owe nobody, any type, of explanation. We owe ourselves. But we got to do a deep dive and assessment, so to speak, of our consciousness. This is necessary. We all got to do this right here. Because if we didn't, then we wouldn't be talking about it. That mean everybody already perfect. So that's why we talk about striving to unfold. Holy instructions from the prophet. Instability of man. 1 minute we will it, 1 minute we will it not. 1 will it, minute one will it, and know it not whether they willing or not. Yeah, that's how it be. That's the way life is. It can be a roller coaster ride if you ain't careful. You see? So we gotta put our boots on the ground, all hands on deck, scimitars raised. We gotta get on that level, family. And stop looking for somebody outside of us to save us, and stop trying to save people that don't want to be saved. Don't mean that you can't be a good Moorish American Muslim. It's just saying you got to recognize what you're dealing with. Because the wise man, again, would never endanger himself for fools. We're not here in life just looking for a reputation. Yeah. So this is a powerful demonstration, family, when we talk about we can go through this whole chapter and pull many measures out, but like the Grand Secretary of the State definitely laid a good foundation with the ayats. So we know who the adversary is. Inconstancy. That's one of them. This is one of the foes you got to fight upon the plane of soul. Inconstancy. You got to fight to be able to think, will, reason, understand, and remember, and all that. We ain't talking about physical fight. We talking about the energy had. And then we would go beyond even the concept of really having to deal with what we call weeping at the calamities and different follies and so forth and so on. It's telling you that the hands of the man addicted to vanity. What is the hand? The hand is symbolic to the mind. So the minds of the Moorish American national addicted to vanity. Life then is but the shadow of a dream. Goodness gracious. And you know how dreams are. So what is the shadow of a dream? Oh man, that's something else, ain't it? Ooh-wee. So the key is how much do we really know of ourselves? How much do we know of ourselves when it comes to self-mastery? Because we can't expect nobody else to master us. We got to master ourselves. We do know people, if you allow them to try to master your mind, though, they end up being your slave master. Oops, did I say that? If you can't think for yourself, definitely one will try to make you a living slave. So we got to go into the instructions and make these things applicable to every aspect of the life. And that's what I've been, working on myself lately. Just dealing with the ayats and, looking at them, studying them deep, and wondering how we able to enhance what it is that we already have. And the best way is really through exemplification, to demonstrate it in actions, so to speak. And when one sees the beauty of the character, then, the action itself, is attracted, so to speak, by those who long for that special mindset. They say actions speak louder than words, huh? What are the actions of the soul? Thinking, willing, reason, understanding, and remembrance. So our thinking has to speak through what it is that we express. Express yourself. Express your higher self. That's all we got to do. The chairman said all the time, he said, well, what you gonna do? Shoot it or dribble it, Morris. So, like I said, we just came out of the pinnacle of wisdom, so we already know what we're doing. So, don't jump in the way of a bullet, of a fool, that knew that one had, a pistol on them before they went up to it. And they gonna go and stir up the ethers, knowing good and well this one already, has, an instrument of death. And then wonder, oh, it took him off the count. Of course he did. What else you thought was gonna happen? So yeah, we can go into many different areas when it comes to exercising, our five as it relates to this demonstration. But I just really wanted to harp on that, stay out the way, family, when it comes to dealing with, those who are in a state of suffering, traumatized, and they don't know that they on the PTSS. They think they got everything under control. But let the great God Allah sort all things out in all situations. And you'll see how it pan out. You'll see the end result of it, family. We got to keep, good energy around us. We got to keep good people around us. Because opposites attract, but, it's always good to demonstrate those who are in a like mind and those who are moving in the same direction. Because that's where you're going to get your balance from. You see? We got to have a good expression when it comes to our hemisphere, left and right hemisphere of thinking. One has to do with, the carnal mind, the rationalizing, and the other has to do with spirituality. So you have to bring a balance between the two and get some stability. See? It makes sense now, don't it? So we have to look at the higher self as being, our true champion or redeemer, or however you want to put it. The higher self Praise be to Allah for sending us a holy prophet that has taught us about the higher self. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Praise be to Allah for sending us that blessing that we may have all these divine lessons, family. And we're going to have more to come forth having their eyes wide open. They're going to sit ones in the bite that got that old thought pattern. Out with the old, in with the new. So we got to be new in our way of thinking. We can't have that old mindset, that NBC thought pattern, and think it's all good. No, it don't work like that. We got to have some stability. And that comes from being founded, when it comes to dealing with consciousness. Prophet Noble Drew Ali did his job. He brought us everything it takes to save a nation. All he asked us was to take it and save ourselves. There it go. You ain't got to worry about nobody else trying to be no hero for you. Yeah. I think that's one of the most powerful ayats that it is. Sometimes when we think, I remember back in the day, we felt like one was full of it. They asked the man, who you trying to convince? So yeah, it's a powerful demonstration, family. We on the front line with it. Very powerful. So I just wanted to, like I say, harp on that particular ayat. Ayat 3. And I said everything that need to be said. I don't really have to use the hammer of repetition too much. I think I made myself plain and clear. So what I'm gonna do right now at this time, we're gonna go ahead and open up the floor for our family. So that we can get some of the drawing from them. We can get some strength from strong sources. Islam. So what I'm gonna do at this time, and again, we give honors to our Grand National Secretary of the State for what it is she done and open up the way and all that she will do, her and the tribe of endurance and a host of swift angels. Islam. We all individual links in the golden chain. So gratitude. So we're going to call on our family at this particular time so that they may be able to open up the way. Islam. Star 6 your phone, Moors, if you have a measure you would like to bring forth. Islam? I know we ain't got no Jiminy Crickets in here, man.
Islam, okay.
Islam, great man. No, you got it.
Islam, you hear me, grandma?
Yeah, we heard Marvin Edward Bay. And then you trying to get in there too, brother? 2 at a time?
Oh, well, okay. Okay. Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay.
Islam, brother.
Gratitude.
Yeah, it's all right with me. Hey, y'all good. Yeah, either or, man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold the floor that long, Anyway, gratitude for calling me, and gratitude our National Assistant Grand Chairman for yielding the floor. This is Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay out of the Texas Consulate, rising and giving all praise to the great God Allah, giving highest honors to his prophet, our prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Al-Hajj Sheikh Sharif Abdullah. Give high honors to our theocratic government, our Moorish American government. I give high honors to our Act 1. I give high honors to all of our officials. I give high honors to this class, this Moorish Prospectus class, as well as I give honors to you, Dr. Shady Wamenti Amohedi Sessuela, our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of Moorish America, for hosting and instructing a most powerful class. As well as I give honors to did I say Act 1? Yeah, I did. I give honor to everything that's Moorish. Our flag, our seal, our emblem. our divine constitution, our Holy Quran, our Book of Ali, our 101 and 102, like Zooming Over Nations. All of our divine revelations, I give honor. Give honor to the forerunner, Dr. Marcus Ponce Gabriel, as well as I give honor to the ancestors whose shoulders we stand upon. We are the return of the ancient ones. Very powerful class. You cover a lot of ground, as well as the National Grand Secretary of the State. Yeah, she started out, she hit the floor running, as they say. But it's a beautiful thing. All three of those items are good. Since this is your class, we're gonna hone in on item 3, the hero, the most renowned of a human character. I mean, that kind of like, kind of like stuck out with me. I mean, that's a human character, but it's the most renowned of it. You know what I mean? Sound like the ego too. What is he but the bubble of this weakness? Okay. The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should the man of wisdom endanger himself with fools? And I like where they put that. Why should he? I mean, because he's wise. He's not. He ain't even gonna go there. But this is a powerful message, man. You covered a lot of ground, and as I was listening, I take a couple notes. You talked about heroism. Heru. You know what I mean? He who is above. Hero is being content, and I'm gonna just say the truth. When we know who we are, when we come to the realization that we are the God. You know what I mean? We are the God. And so it's contingent to our filling in, so to speak, or stepping up. That's where I see it. You know what I mean? Because the great God is right there, in our ear, been in our ear all the time. But do we listen? Sometimes not. But then again, praise a lot for me hearing and obeying at the right time. That's why I'm in this North American government. And I'm still listening. You know what I mean? I'm still listening to the God in man that speaks to man. And I do that on a constant basis. So that's what it's all about, being in tune, staying in tune. And I can say that I don't, not falter, but I don't like to say hesitating because they say he who hesitated is lost. But we're learning, we're striving. So I can't say that I'm always there, but I'm so far beyond where I used to be. You know what I mean? And so I'm so close where I need to be. I put it like that. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of this divine and national movement within itself. You know what I mean? And to truly be a benefit to the demonstration, to this movement. That's my goal, to be of service. You know what I mean? And by being of service in my North American government, then I can reach out to my Morse people that don't know. And I'm going to the level to where I can appreciate where you are, and I don't get excited like I used to, and I end up blurring something out like, what's a nationality? I mean, I know they ain't gonna tell them no. You know what I mean? Anything that would kind of make them uncomfortable. I don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm just so grateful for being part of this North American government and growing to a level where I can be content. You know what I mean? So that when I do act, I act in love. And I'm gonna leave it right there. Gratitude, God, man, for allowing me to speak. Islam and peace.
Well, Islam and peace will serve your purpose well then, grand man. Gratitude. Islam, okay, our assistant chairman now?
Yeah, Islam. Close the love, dog. How you be, grand man?
All is well. Law's leading on, brother.
Victory is sure. That's right. Islam, North America. Dr. Kemper, Nibbles Rasul, Bay, National Sister Grand Chairman, Morris America, giving rise and praise our Father God Allah. On the Star Holy Prophet, Noble Ali. On the Star Grand National Flag, emblem and seal, divine constitution, bylaws of Morris America, giving high honors to our Moorish New Year, our Moorish Holy Week, giving honors to our founding father and framer, Prophet Noble Ali. Islam, man, chapter 62, and also giving honors to the class and giving honors to our National Grand Secretary of State for opening up, for bringing forth the foundation, and honors to our National Sister Grand Sheikh for bringing forth the grand measure as well. And we give honors to all those who spoke before me, and I give honors to all those who will speak after me. So, Ayat 3, chapter 62, holy instructions from the prophet of the instability of man. From Ayat 3, the hero, the most renowned of human character. And what's so beautiful about this is that in your measure, it's not as our prophet brings us the whole instructions from the prophet, the instability of man, because we have learned in the previous chapter dealing with the pinnacle of wisdom, and a soldier never knows a strength without a foe, and so therefore this foe has come up after we have obtained who made you, Allah, the great God of the universe. And so as we come back, as we descend back down to the public, or as we descend back down from the pinnacle to be about our Father's work, here on the plane of things made manifest, back surrounded by our people, eagles that still eating chicken feed. But yet we have been blessed by our prophet, to be able to fly and see the vastness of what we know today as infinite thought. And so our prophet Nabi Ali, he is he is our founding father and friend, because we are able to attach ourselves to our founding father and friend. What is good of a prophet? To save nations from the wrath of Allah. So the hero has blessed us also to be the hero. But it starts with self. From that one great love thought came many. And so our prophet, has blessed us to understand that the human character is to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and it's to know who made us. And and what is he but the bubble of his weakness? So therefore, even when I think about that, it's funny because as children we used to love bubbles, a dollar. So we'd take the stick, put it inside the solution, bring it up and blow, and we would blow the breath. But we didn't even know the divinity in that right. To be also co-creators of the great God Allah, to be Herus, to be heroes of ourselves and of our special nation, especially those in the public who are ungrateful and unstable. And therefore, as Moorish American nationals, we're able to not only take that same breath and to exercise strength within ourselves, and we also, because we're able to do that, exercise strength, exercise the love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice within self, and exercising the breath, because we understand that also that health, vigor, and proportion, but health is the most important. Health is to heal, and we have to, let that wound get the air, that love thought, the great God of the universe, so therefore, even as we too was unstable and ungrateful at a time, but once again, giving all honors to our Prophet Ali and all praise to the great God Allah for bringing us everything that it takes to save us as a nation. And therefore, we are able to, be about also, I say, why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? Well, why should he? Well, I have to say that I understand that our people are unstable, and they're ignorant to the fact that who made them because of the indoctrination of Christianity and the church, Western Freemasonry, organizations. And yes, we understand that organizations cannot be a nation, but our beloved Prophet Noble Ali has brought forth a grand learning center and study self, These grand lessons are 101s, are 102s. Morris had that questionnaire, Book of Fire, Circle 7 Quran, Exhuman of a Nation, Book of Ali, and the Moorish American Nationals, our divine creed and nationality, divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America. Man, I tell you, we have everything that it takes to save the present concern of mental slavery. So therefore, we just give honors that we are able to imitate the prophet and be loved. And that's the present concern, to spread that love. And as our National Grand Secretary of State, sometimes you don't even have to say it, just be it. So with that being said, long live Moorish America, blessed Moorish American Holy Week, blessed Manifestation Week, Islam, grand class. Peace and love, family.
Islam, grand class, and peace and love to you as well, brother. Allah is leading on and victory is sure. Islamism without the schism. Praise be to Allah. All right, Islam, Sister Cammy.
I think a brother spoke before me. Man. I'm not trying to cut the line. Which one of us you want to go first?
The goddess always go first, goddess.
Yes, sir. This is Sister Cammy in Michigan. I rise, honor, and praise the great God of law on this holy week. I'm the prophet Noble Drawley, official citizens, Moors here, there, and everywhere, especially my Moorish kin. Both of you mentioned vanity, and instability is the chapter of wrong. That vanity and that instability being the foe. There's a lot on the prophet telling you, okay, this is a foe. And let me break it down to you so you can see it coming. As far as a friend warning you and giving you the tools to heal yourself. Don't let nobody bring that instability foe up in your demonstration. And if it hasn't already happened more than once, then more than likely will while you're in the flesh. So someone trying to force their demonstration on you to the point that you have difficulty telling them no. Don't let them bring that mess all up in your demonstration. You got a holy and divine demonstration. Some gods outside of yourself. Vanity. When you're concerned about your outward appearance, $100,000 car instead of a $10,000 used one. When you care about how you look to others, I'm not implying to neglect yourself. About to say clean yourself with, just say clean with that water. Mix some soap in it. They need to be clean as much as possible. Some of us know what it's like to have time so hard that the facilities of a shower is considered a luxury. So stay as neat and clean as you possibly can. Wash it out by hand as need be. But that vanity I mentioned to you all within the last few weeks, they're going to be cutting on my face. And you can't be concerned about that. And you can't be concerned about it above the neck because it links to that ego. And that ego is a good friend of vanity. Y'all can't be friends if y'all false. I mean, that's not your friend. That's a foe. Sometimes you need to know when to have pride and confidence, and the difference between pride and confidence and vanity, and the difference between necessities and luxuries. You need transportation. It's a bus. If push comes to shove, if you need to be working with Allah gave you your 2 feet, is able. Advantage is it had you doing things you wouldn't normally do. It's a fault. And when somebody tries to bring that vanity ego stuff into your demonstration, don't let them all up in your house. It can linked to jealousy, envy, all types of stuff. They'll put you in your lower self to do something about them. Don't let that demonstration in your mix. Gratitude.
In Islam and gratitude, sister, for the draw. Peace and love. All right, who was the brother?
Islam.
Islam. Now, were you, Brati Bay, trying to get in there?
Yes, it was.
Islam.
Yes, it is. Islam.
Islamism.
First, I'd like to rise and give all men the praise to Allah. Unto the Prophet, unstart theocratic government, a royal council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, our swift angels, multi citizens of our kind of all the Moors that spoke before me, all the ones that will speak after. And honest to you for this class. And honest to the honest for holding the fort down. Islam. And being the hero, a lot of times, man, that's the hero is the one that always finds himself in the most compromising position because, he has this, sometimes, when you get wrapped up in just doing things for the love, you were speaking on it earlier. When you're doing things out of love and you just do it for the love of that and for the love of the situation. And even for the love of the people. Let's say that. You find yourself in the most compromising positions every single time that plays out because the public doesn't know. There's a lot of jealousy mixed up with the public. One, they like you said, they don't have the mental fortitude to go through, or even do what it takes to get to that point. But they shun you for even attempting because they feel like they could have did the same thing. So it's like a level of resentment in that aspect as well. And, I'm not going to say that a lot of times if I'm doing something, I can't put it on myself because I'm going to say my vanity or what vanity would play out would be is that I need the credit. And how I know that it's not my vanity is that if it lines up with any one of the 5 highest principles that has to be manifested at that point, then that's how I know that it's for me to do, and it has to be done. Because one, I'm in that vicinity of where that situation occurred at. 2, if it's directly happening to me, and there's nobody else that have the know-how, have the vigor, have the willingness to even do it. You know what I'm saying? There's been a lot of times where I've been trying to stay out of the light or out of these situations, and I'll get pushed right back in it. It's not that I want to be there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying this to show my experience. It's not that you want to be there. It's that everything progresses you to be in that point. And, you know what I'm saying? It is a testament to your character. It's not trying to be the hero, but everyone has something that they got. Like you said before, everyone has something here that they have to manifest. You know what I'm saying? And if your life's songs and the trials and tribulations that you have been through speaks to being that person, then that is your role. Same like Malcolm X. his life Psalms, though even diverted, he still came back around and had to stand in that position. You know, Johnny Cochran, another one. He didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? He was just going through life, but there's certain situations that propel you into it. Medgar Evers, another one. All these situations have prepared, their life Psalms have prepared them into these specific situations to where they had to stand in that portion. Because there was nobody else there to do it. And if there were people there to do it, they weren't going to, they either you're going to be tried by fire or you are going to, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna find yourself in there if you was meant to do it. If that's your role, that's what you're meant to do. That's even when you're not seeking it, it's gonna seek you because that's your destiny. What seeks you is your destiny, and it's not necessary. Even if you say the bad portions, you know what I'm saying. And the hero, in a sense, is not so much for the public, but that hero is like you even going to the fact that the hero fit is the one that's going to stand in the truth, because the goal is always either the truth, it's always either the love, it's always the peace, freedom, or the justice. It's going to be that's the real hero. You are just the one there to expose what principle has to be put out at that junction. You know what I'm saying? And it's because your eyes is open to see it. And though there may be other people around, eyes open to see it, it's still you. Because you're in that situation. You know, I remember my mom gave me this book called it was Eckhart Tolle. It said Awakening the New Earth. And he said, how you know you're in the right situation? Because you're in it. If you weren't supposed to be in that situation, you wouldn't be in that situation. You're supposed to be in the situations you're in because it's on you to rise. It's on you. Those are situations tailor-made to fit to you to bring out that, not the hero, but the hero thing. That is, they're seeking either love, truth, peace, freedom, or justice, or a combination of it all. And it's either going to expose whether you are, how well you studied yourself as well, because that's the only that goes back to that Sun Tzu saying, if you know your enemy but don't know yourself, you're gonna fall without, you're gonna 50-50 battles. If you know well yourself and not your enemy, that's another 50-50 battle. If you know well yourself and your enemy, you're gonna rise to the occasion every single time. You know, and that's what they go back to the Bruce Lee demonstration, where he says, it's not about you, it's about your kung fu. It's about how well you know yourself. You know what I'm saying? And how well do you know your mission? How familiar are you with your mission? Because the vessels is never the savior. It's always the principle. The principle is the saving, because that's not going, because it's a timeless effort. Whatever the sum is, the timeless portion of it. That's always going to be in the be exposed. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, if you look at like Malcolm X, where he exposed the unity. Noble Drew Ali exposed that he exposed everything. A lot of these things that these others have. You know what I'm saying, built themselves off of, with us, it's our nationality and divine creed. Without him, there was no Islam over here. So even all those people that during that time, Elijah, Clarence, 13X, all the other brothers, they all brought their demonstration from what Noble Drew Ali brought. You see what I'm saying? So it's the principles, when it comes down to the saving, the vessel is just there, and a lot of people get it with the outcome mixed up with the person. And we are really supposed to be the outcome. That's why the idol is never supposed to be worshipped, but more so what the idol what the person has came to manifest. And that's a testament of where they let their footprints clearly cut. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, I'll leave my comment piece as well.
In Islam, And peace and gratitude, brother, for that drawing. Yeah, praise be to Allah for that measure. That's right. You know, we going beyond the hero to the Herufat. That's right, heroism. Islam. Is there any other more who would like to come forth and exercise their fire? Islam, who is that?
Islam, Dr. Larry Daniels Bay.
Islam.
Carolina Constant Agent. First, I rise and give praise and glory to Allah, the most merciful. And I give high honors to His holy and divine prophet, El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, the last prophet in these days and times. And I give honors to Act 1 of our divine constitution. And I honor you, God, man, for opening up the way for us more. It's great class, as always. And I honor all my brothers and sisters in life. Peace and blessings. Peace and love. Well, brother, you know, what the brother was saying, each situation is curtailed to the person that's in that situation, you know, and, you know, everything has a cause and an effect. So when we find ourselves in situations like that, all we have to do is have good character, like we speaking of, because being true, standing on these principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, it builds good character, strong character. You know, nobody don't have to worry about what you're going to do because they know you're going to do the right thing. They know you're going to do the best you can to make sure that everybody in the situation is happy, you know, and satisfied because you're getting as honest as you can, because that's all it takes. You know, it is easy to be honest. You know, it's easy especially when you see these blessings start pouring out to you. You know, because the universe is like that golden cord. It reaches through everything. So when man is sincere in his actions, nobody don't have to be around him because that God that sits up in him watches everything he does. So if you think he's fooling somebody, he's not. You know, because if you're not sincere in your actions, if you're not sincere in your works and the things that you're doing, you're not fooling nobody but yourself and your little ego. Because it's all out in the open as far as where God is concerned, because everything is governed by laws, you know. And just, you know, I was just in a situation not long ago when a family member needed, you know, a couple of dollars. And I said, you know, I'm just going to give them $300 because they're not listening to what I said about my prophet. They're not hearing me. And then I heard myself. And then I said, you know what? Just because you did it like that and you putting conditions on your love, you're going to give them $500. So that's what I did. And the universe was listening, you know, because I got $500 right back, you know, through another channel. It just came to me, you know, so, and that lets me understand that, hey, that's right. Because you stood at the temple gates watching with your ego, when your ego try to get out of place, you throw it back in where it belongs. But I'm not saying I threw it away, but I just put it back, you know, in the back burner because I don't need it right now. And I went with, you know, what I felt was proper, you know, because a soldier never knows his strength unless he be tested. And each time we're tested, it's because like each test is curtailed to you. You know, not for the person over there or the person over there, it's for you. Because of your cause and effects and everything that happened in your own mind that brought you to this point right here for you to face whatever you face. It's yours. It's not theirs. It's yours. How you gonna handle it? And if you're at the gates temple and you're conscious, you know what I'm saying, of how you handle things, and you know about love, you know about how love is unconditional. You know the law that runs through everything, just like that love. You know what I'm saying? You know what your ego is and what it can be used for. You know what I'm saying? And everything else. Now you're on your way to being a master of that self. Because I feel that once man be true to himself, he got to become that master. You see? And he's like you said, brother, we're always a student. Always. You see? Because everything in the circle I know, but I understand. And I'm wise enough to understand that there's things outside the circle that I'm going to know. You see, I just ain't got it yet because it's the will of the great God Allah that I know. You see, because it's in the cosmic records, it's at my disposal, but I have to have access to it. And the only way I have access to these things is that I pass the test, each test. You see, not trying to fool nobody, because the main thing is that you can't fool yourself. You got to be sincere, and you build character. That way, once you build that character up, it starts from the center to the outer bounds. Not everybody, you know. Nobody called me for no holidays. You know what I'm saying? There's years for that. No birthdays, no none of that. Because the only thing I celebrate is my prophet, you know, and what he has brought me, you know, my mind back. So it's all about love and being true to thyself, because you're watching yourself. It's all right up in us, called love. It's a part of us. Peace and blessing, Islam.
Islam, more gratitude for the message. All right, Islam. Is there any other more who would like to come forth?
Islam.
Islam, Brother Muhammad Bey. What have you to say, grand man?
Gratitude, peace and love, my beloved brother. Yes, I'm Dr. Gerald Hamid Muhammad Bey of the South Carolina Consulate. First, let me rise and praise of our Father God Allah, who is the best known arranger of all things, and give the highest honors to his holy prophet, our holy prophet, Prophet Noble Ali, who is the last prophet of this new era of time now. He is the seventh manifestation in divine flesh, the seventh angel, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, always extending and giving much love, honor, and respect to you, our national assistant, Grand Sheik of Moorish American government and its nation, for always sharing with love what your Father God Allah has given you. We appreciate you, Grand Man, more than words can express. Definitely a living example of what a true Moorish American is supposed to be. Much love to all that you do. I give honors to Act 1 of our divine constitution and bylaws. I give honors to our grand national seal, our grand national emblem, and our grand national flag. I give honors to this theocratic government in which we all live and can live. I give honors to Marcus Mosiah Garvey L., the forerunner that opened up the way for our beloved Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to all of our Moorish kin, our visitors out there in the public, our student ministers, angels, executive rulers, to everyone on this StreamYard Live National Moorish Perspective conference call. I give honors to those that spoke before me and those that will speak after me. And I give honors to absolutely everything Moorish. Blessed, 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 happy Moorish American National Holy Week, where we celebrate the birth of our holy prophet as being our savior and ushering in the Moorish American National New Year. And we celebrate also the ratification of the 13th Amendment that ended chattel slavery, which brought forth the birth of this pure and clean nation of Moorish America. Grand week. Islam, grand man, as always, brother, Allah endowed you with that truth. And, you covered a lot of ground, which, of course, we are grateful. And we draw from that whichever our Father God, Allah, has intended for each and every one of us to draw from. So, as stated, the ayat, the hero, the most renowned of human character. What is he? The bubble, of this weakness. The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? Well, the first part, when we're talking about the hero, just as you stated, the next part that comes after it is an identifier. What type of hero is being referred to here? One renowned of human character in the eyes of the masses of the people. But then it also tells us that this is a bubble of the weakness. What weakness is this hero? A bubble, or that which has risen above, that which is clearly a reflection of that lesser characteristic. Well, that weakness is actually the subject matter of the chapter, instability. And this is why after that it says the public is unstable and ungrateful. Then it puts forth the question, why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? Now, on the common level, from my understanding, and I have to deal with it from where my state and my station is. If I looked at this from a common level and say, well, nah, man, I ain't gonna put my life on the line for no daggone fools. Like you said, it says, well, these people are unstable and they're ungrateful. But I'm a Moorish American. And my holy prophet, Prophet Noble Jew Ali, told me, instructed me divine instructions from the highest plane of spirit life. He said, imitate I, your prophet. So this same scenario that is set forth in the ayat was prevalent during the time that our prophet was here in the plane of manifestation. What did he do? Did he step back and hold the treasures of the gift of salvation that he had within himself? The wisdom, the knowledge of people, places, and things, when, where, and how to use that knowledge. No, he did not. And he knew that the people were unstable. And he knew that the people were ungrateful, because he even said, we are a hard-necked, stiff-necked, right, people, a hard-headed and stiff-necked people. He knew that. But because he wasn't a human, so to speak, right, using that scenario, right, he wasn't looking, as you said, grand man, he wasn't doing what he was doing, right, for the praise and the honor of man. He did it because he loved his Father God Allah. He did it because he was a living manifestation of what we call divine flesh of the will of his Father God Allah. And this is what our prophet taught us. Yes, we realize, because I myself at one time was a Negro, at one time was a colored person, at one time was a black person, a African American. At one time I identified myself with all these things, which means I was unstable and ungrateful, because I didn't have the knowledge of self. But the true hero, the divine hero, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he came to teach exactly what it was that we did not have, that I did not have. He said, I came to teach you how to be yourself, brother Hamid. You're not yourself. You're sinning against the great God because you living in a state and a mind where you're looking at things from a people, a system, and a culture that is not your own. So therefore, you have adopted their ways and their means. You've been indoctrinated. And I come with the knowledge, understanding, and wisdom to set you free. This is my understanding of this particular axiom. So when we talk about instability, a tendency to behave in an unpredictable, changeable, or erratic manner. Here's the final part: emotional instability. And this is not to talk down, but we have to be truthful in this day and time. We as a people are some of the most emotional, reactionary people on the planet. When we deal with emotions that are not governed by thought and reasoning, because the prophet said everything begins with the thought. The prophet told us that we have to purify our hearts and minds with love. We must love the truth because it's the truth that makes the distinction between truth and falsehood, between that which is true and that which is false. And this is why it makes us free. If we are totally sincere, as one of the Moors can say, to that truth, obedient to that truth, and as you stated, grand man, see, the true hero, the divine hero, so to speak, using that terminology, is one who stands in the face of adversity, because that's inevitable on this path. That's a true hero. He doesn't do it, you understand, to be seen or recognized, because he loves. That's another characteristic. The prophet said we need to learn how to love instead of hate. So when we begin to love this truth, we begin to love what we see, because we see it from a degree of difference than the so-called common people. And just like in the story in the Piscean record, when it says, and Yehoshua, Jesus, so to speak, for those who are not familiar with that name, it says he looked out amongst the masses of the people and he had compassion upon them, because he could see them, right, from a state and a station that they seen them not. And ending, what did our prophet say? This state and this condition, the prophet, as Professor Drew, diagnosed that state and condition as mental slavery. So this is what he came. He came and brought the prescription, the divine prescription, to take us beyond the characteristics of human knowledge, so that we could be that wisdom that speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life. Because the prophet again taught us the great God and Father of the universe, whom we call Allah, speaks to man through man, and those who hear are still. This is a grand magnanimous class, grand man. Gratitude, peace and love. Thanks for letting me share. Blessed, happy, holy week to all Moors everywhere. Peace and love.
And gratitude and peace and love for that drawing, brother. Allah is leading on and victory is sure. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. All right. Well, I want to give honors to all the measures that were brought on the manifest, and say praise be to Allah. Allah is leading on and victory is sure. And at this particular time, we're going to go ahead and call on our officials, starting with our Assistant Grand National Secretary of State, Sister Alseta Moonel. Islam, you there, Goddess and Queen?
Islam, grand man, the goddess is unavailable at this moment. Peace and love.
Okay, praise be to Allah, peace and love. Well, let us call then our beloved National Grand Mufti to the manifest, Dr. Kanchu Mark Herubey. Islam, grand man.
Islam.
Islam.
Gratitude, angel. We rise first and foremost, giving all thanksgiving, adoration, worship, and praise to our Father God, Allah, the great God of the universe, the most beneficent and the most wise. And we give the highest honors that we can give his prophet, our prophet, the last prophet in these days and in these times, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, the savior of humanity. Give honor to his forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and we give honor to his government. Our government, the Moorish American government, the government in which we live. According to Act 6, we give honors to the officials of this said government, our divine ministers, our angels, our mufti, our royal council, our secretaries. We give honors to our citizens, the Moorish Americans. We give honor to our flag and our divine constitution and bylaws, our Holy Quran, our Grand National Seal, and our Grand National Emblems, our Book of Fire, the exhument of a nation. We give honors to everything that is Moorish. We give special high honors to you, National Sister Grand Sheikh, Dr. Shadu Amiti and Measure L for the Moorish respect this evening, and to our Grand National Secretary of the State, Dr. Chester Tutankhamun Bey, for her portion of the class. We give honors to all of our Moorish kin who have spoken before us, and to our Moorish kin that will speak after us. We give honors to you, angels. We just continue to give the honors for their due, and honoring all true and divine prophets. And yes, we give honors to our ancestors as they have come before us, leading the way, and we are them today without doubt or contradiction, because no one has the power to change man from his descent nature. And it's been a grand class. Dealing with this coming out of our ayah 3, coming out of our holy instructions from the prophet, the instability of man. It says, the hero, the most renowned of human character, what is he but the bubbles of this weakness? Public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should a man of wisdom endanger himself from food? My Moorish kin has spoken wisely. I think one thing that's always sticks out to me when people talk about heroes, I always have to remind there's always there's heroes on both sides of the story. There's heroes on both sides of the battle. So it doesn't have to do with really the truth of the matter. It's one's perception. You know, depending on what side you are, who the hero is. You know, and so this is why this one is renowned on the human characters, because everybody got one. As far as when it comes to insurmountable odds, or hold on, first. Let me finish here. When it comes to insurmountable odds, or looking at the salvation of a people. So it says, what is he but the bubble of this weakness? And the weakness is, as once again, as my Morris kid said, you know, heaping up your own affairs on somebody else instead of taking care of your own affairs, instead of taking care of your own battles. You know, you look to this other one as a salvation, as a savior. You know, and our prophet said, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation, take it and save yourself. And he came to save humanity in the essence of putting the onus back on to each individual instead of keeping it on to another like they did in the time. They're still doing now. We call scapegoats. You know, where they'll heap all the sins of people or the wrongs one did on one individual or one sacrificial entity, and use that to responsibility in life. And that is not how it goes, because the public is unstable and ungrateful. Meaning, in one sense, the one will be like, yeah, we need to string this one up. And then they string one up and take their life. And if things don't go right, then they're going to be like, on the other hand, see, you shouldn't have did that. Down with an angry God. So they don't know which way is right. One is unstable in the sense of understanding the true responsibility or the true essence of the divine. And some call it survival of the fittest. Some call it natural selection. Others call it, responsibility. And it's your responsibility, as our lessons tell us, to make sure that you take care of your own life and the good it is to others. So why should the wise man, why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? Well, if one is wise, then they're not going to put themselves in a dangerous spot for fools. One is going to try to assist in the ways that they can. They're not going to endanger themselves. It's just like a lifeguard. A lifeguard is wise enough to know that you see somebody drowning, you just don't come up to them face front and try to save them if you're in the water. Why? Because this one is drowning, and they're gonna try to drown you. And so, as a lifeguard, you talk to get behind that one, and you pull them from behind. One, so they can't grab you like that and just take you down. And second, it allows you more mobility. It's the same way even you're not in the water. They tell you don't go in the water, throw that one a life raft or preserver. The first instructor is always try to help one save themselves. So you throw them a preserver, a life preserver. But they call it a lifesaver. Like the candies, that little hoop. But it's a flotation device so that one can grab a hold of themselves and calm down, and then you can either pull them in. So that's the wisdom. I'm not going to endanger myself and jump into the water with you when I know that you're panicking and you'll do anything for your life, including killing both of us. I'm going to use tools necessary to help you save yourself. And then once you are active in your own life-saving process, then I can pull you in. This is why even at the pools, you see, they got the long hook thing. It ain't just, so you one can grab it from the side and you can help one pull them in instead of trying to jump in there. And that's just a simple example of one might say, well, you're a hero. You saved that one's life. You can look at it like that, or you can look at it that I acted fast and I helped that one save his own life. And that's where we step in the process of remembering that we ain't got to be that. We ain't got to go out there and try to be big, bad, rough and tough, and acting like we don't need any assistance. Because even when you look at the so-called heroes in the movies, all heroes got a crew with them. They don't never do it by themselves. They got somebody who's the brains. They might be the muscles. They got somebody else who's the brains, and they got another person who's the medic, the healer, going to help them once they run their physical self out there, thinking they can use force on everything to help them heal up, so that now they can gain some wisdom and transform their thought and their actions from a simple brute force into actually using some strategy. They actually using some kind of reasoning and willing and thinking. And then you move out of that state of trying to do everything yourself, the hero, trying to heap it all on yourself, and realize that it's always going to take a team. It's always going to take unity of people, because we are meant to work with each other. We're meant to be here with each other in the bands of society. And so, with that understanding, we should all know that we are all the heroes, as should be all considered heroes, because we all should be working together to make sure that we are all taken care of, that there's no one that's left behind, that there's no need for one to try to push one out to the front and heap all the responsibility on that one and say, well, no, you don't need to be a hero. You know, when the bully comes, you ain't got to be the only one stepping. We all gonna step up, and we gonna show the bully that we are a unified front, and that we, you know, we ain't gonna take the mistreatments and abuses anymore. So it's been a grand class. Gratitude for the class, National Sister Grand Sheik, and bringing this wisdom forth, and gratitude to you, Moorish America, and our sympathizers, supporters, for your time, attention, and respect. We love you. Islam and peace.
Islam and peace, National Grand Mufti, and happy Holy Week as well. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. Well, all right. Let us call forth our National Grand Secretary of State, Sister Shepsut Rakat Ma'at and Pooh, Tutankhamun Bay. Islam, you there, Goddess and Queen?
Closest to thought, gratitude.
Gratitude.
Praise Allah. Islam, Moorish Ken, first of all, I want to rise, giving all praises to our Father God Allah, giving honor to our Prophet Noble Ali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our Moorish American government, all of our officials, staff, with angels, muftis, divine ministers, most especially our Moorish Ken. Giving honor to all those Moors that spoke before me, all those Moors that will speak after me. Much gratitude and honor to our National Assistant Grand Chairman, Dr. Kepri Anubis Rasul Bey, for opening our meeting according to law. Also, our National Grand Secretary of Indiana, Dr. Sayanaki Nuhetfaru L, for taking registration and reading our subject chapter for the week. Giving a special honor to our National Assistant Grand Sheik of Moorish America, Dr. Shadawa Menti El Mohamed Shepsuel, for hosting a Grand Moorish Perspectives class this evening. Our subject matter coming from Ayat 3, the hero, the most renowned of human character. What is he but the bubble of this weakness? The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should a man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? And you brought forth a lot of beautiful keys, Dr. Shahi, along with our Moorish kin that brought forth their measure. And as I was reflecting on this particular looking at the hero that is dealing with or known for their renown of human character. So I looked at it from the aspect of one that's thinking on a manifest level, that wants to be seen or doing things because of their special ego or vanity, looking for the applause of their brethren, or the all about me syndrome. And we recognize the fact that that's indeed a foe that one has got to fight, because as you stated before, a lot of times we want to X Allah out of the equation, when had it not been for Allah, none of us would be here. So there was a powerful degree when you brought forth instability leads to being ungrateful and forgetting about the benefactor. That is so key. And that's definitely room for reflection and contemplation. And when I looked at the Heruism, Heru, dealing with God within ourselves, or the consciousness within ourselves, our higher self, that was a powerful measure, because just looking at it from the aspect of how we came through mental slavery and looking at everything outside of the self, including heroes to rescue us or what have you, because this is what was indoctrinated in us. That way, the responsibility, I can lay back, be diseased, helpless, sick, and everything else, but as long as I got a hero that's going to come and rescue today, he's to the advent of more science and the truths that the prophet has brought to me, I recognize the fact that the responsibility belongs on me to either make or mar my fortune. The responsibility is mine to get up out of that lower self, get away from these illusions and the things that make us feel good, but it's on a temporary level, and focus on being that God within, the God state, consciousness of who I am, recognizing I come from a source of divinity. So with that brings about a healing and a protection, which we also find in our prayer. And it keeps one above the next, not willing to dip down there, things on a carnal or manifest level. So this has been a grand class. Much gratitude to you, Dr. Shaheen, and much gratitude to all of my Moorish-kin. Blessed Holy Week. Peace and love.
Islam, Grand Secretary of the State. That's what I'm talking about in real time. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. That's Aliism. Well, all right. Let us call forth our National Grand National Chairman, Dr. Akin Acton Pert M. Heru, Tooth the Coming Bay. Islam, you there, Grand Man?
Close the thought. Can you hear me?
Man, I ain't missed a beat. Islam.
Islam isn't without the schism. Let me rise and give praises to Allah and on the Prophet Noble Dwali. Said much honor to Noble Dwali, the last prophet in these days and time that was sent to save us and bring us the everlasting gospel of the great God Allah. And he did just that. That's why we got our own divine constitution, our own holy prayer, holy day. We got everything, Wars. And so with this in mind, I want to extend much honor to all Moorish Markets here, there, and everywhere, because we yet still got a lot of work to do. But the thing about it, it's on us, and we got everything it takes to do the work. So it's an honor to bless and more, and to give much honor to our flag, our divine constitution, our grand national seal and emblem, everything that's Moorish. It's just a wonderful thing, because you are indeed a spirit and a part of Allah. Islamism without the schism. Thank you, Moors. We love you.
Islamism without the schism, and happy Holy Week to you. We give honors to the tribe of endurance, man. Goodness gracious. Whoo, boy, you done seen. We already know, man, when you got one standing up and they holding strong like the tribe of endurance, man, we blessed with the benefactor for giving us that right there in and of itself. If you can't learn something from that, then you ain't gonna learn nothing else anyway. Goodness gracious. Woo. Well, let us call forth our National Grand Sheikh, Islam, Dr. Serapis Amin Ra'el, the Conqueror. Islam, you there, Sheikh? Give our Sheikh a little minute. I know sometimes these apparatuses be acting crazy. Islam.
Our National Grand Sheikh is on the board. Dr. Shahid, I can't unmute him though.
Uh-oh.
We might have to hang up and come back in if he can.
Yeah, that's what I was to say. You want to see if you hear Sheikh, you may have to hang up and come right back in here. We know Rome ain't built nothing to last. Goodness gracious. Give him a second.
Okay, he just hung up. Let's give him a minute. Gratitude.
Okay, gratitude. I figured, yep, he definitely on the manifest. These little apparatuses is something else. Islam. In the meantime, in between time, Moorish Ken, we just want to say it's a
How about that?
There you go. Islam.
How we doing? Are we there?
Oh, we hear you loud and clear, Grandma.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Islam, Moorish America. Praise Allah once again. Woo. Honest to the prophet, honest to our officials and staff and everything. The one utilizes to practice the craft. And this mighty lesson today and the way the war set it out, I'm particularly anxious to go back into the playback and look at what the Grand Moff Chief set out, and he was telling us about the various individuals that are like in groups in a craft, like fire engines, fire department. I'm just using that as an appointment, as a point that each one in that organization or the craft has a specific duty and a specific ability to bring forth, especially to save a soul, save a life, and how one utilizes a craft in order to bring it on the manifest. This is what I've been seeing in our government, what we do on the individual as well as a group capacity, group setting, to reach out, touch our brothers and sisters who may not be able to at a particular point in time grasp the significance and meaning of what's being communicated to them, to themselves, at the same time, and able to bring forth grand demonstration where one becomes whole and united and not so much divided and brought forth in the context that therefore did I do. No, we had help, we had aid and assistance, and this is what brings one on a strong ground. This has been a grand demonstration, Dr. Chaid, as well as the Grand National Secretary of State. It's been a beautiful presentation, and as always, this has been a grand journey this year. Keep getting stronger and stronger as the prophet continues to breathe forth the breath of life in all of us, and continue to do that, prophet. More or less, honest to you, honest to the Moors, and everyone. Happy Moorish American Week to you all, your love to each other. January 15th, 1929, warning for the prophet who read never meeting. Hereby inform all citizens must end all radical agitating speeches while they work in their homes on the street. We have peace and not destruction. Stop blasting your cards to Europeans cause confusion. Remember your cards for your salvation. Pay to evading orders to be a severe consequence. We have to love truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice then will take its course. Any citizen, a group of citizens, the Roman disability towards the government or the property of violating the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from the life of their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by the prophet. If they lose confidence in the prophet, they should turn in the card and money. She's winning terrible affairs and return to the state while the prophet found you. This is the holy divine movement founded by the prophet of the Jew leaders. The prophet ain't right. The government ain't right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part to protect that prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet to the will of Allah to redeem his people from their simple ways by order of prophet, Jew Islam. January 15, 1929, Islam. You are the children of one prophet, blind for last year, and the rest of one mother has given you so. The minds of affection, therefore, unite you with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in my Father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that binds you to love and unity, and the burden not estranged for our own blood. My brother's university assist him. By such a new trouble forsake or not, so shall the fortunes of our Father contribute to support this whole race, and his care be continued to you all. each other. Islam. This means this close going back to Brother Man, Constitution and love to peace, freedom, and justice. Go in peace, Moors. Happy Holy Week. For all the Moors here, there, and everywhere. Islam. Peace. Peace. Happy Holy Week. Great flag. Love you, Grand class.
Islam, Moors. We love you. Don't let nobody tell you nothing different.
Love y'all. Peace and love, family.
Islam, Moors. We love you. Peace and love, Moors. And we want to give honors to our Islam. Give honors to our family. Also check it in from social media too. Thaddeus Bennett Bay, Noble Bryan, all y'all. C Mike, Atham 79, Marquis. We ain't scared of y'all. Y'all come on up in here. Islam, Terrence the Great Born Dog. We love y'all, family. God the Prophet, in the priest roots, all y'all. So Charles Well, check in. Islam. Peace and love, Moors.